Semyonich drew in a noisy breath through his nose, savoring the smell of meat searing, and swept his gaze over the construction site where they'd decided to have a picnic. A solid wall of corrugated metal fenced off the lot, in the middle of which a slim high-rise towered over everything. The fence met at a pair of massive rusted gates. The building's owner apparently loved card games. His tower had exactly 21 floors. He planned to rent them out to the usual swarm of office drones that teemed in our glorious city. Folks took one look and nicknamed the high-rise the Candle. But when the project was down to the final touches, something went wrong. A year ago, the owner vanished without a trace. His phone didn't answer. Neither cops nor dogs could find him. His relatives started fighting in court. The lawyers, as usual, tangled everything up so badly that the chance of finishing the project sank to just below zero. The contractor scattered, of course, and for a whole year now, the empty building and its grounds had been guarded from vandals by the stalwart men of a private firm called Owl Security. The guards were allowed to cook outside in a kettle, right among the abandoned stacks of brick, rusted cement mixers, and site trailers. Alexander tipped chopped onion, carrot, and bell pepper into the pot and mixed the vegetables with the meat. "Alex, you said it was going to be soup, but you're just frying everything," Semyonich grumbled. "First you sear the meat and veggies good, then you add boiling water. You put the kettle on, by the way." "Oh, totally forgot. I'm on it," Semyonich said, jogging over to the guard trailer. Someone thumped on the gate with a hollow boom. "Who's there?" Alexander shouted without leaving the pot. "Open up, Alex, it's me," came a familiar voice. Artem, Alexander's kid brother. "Hey, Artyom, good timing you showed up right for the Sherpa," the guard said, happy as he hauled the squealing gate open. "Alex, I need a private word," Artem said, suddenly serious. "Come over by the fire. I've got to keep stirring so it doesn't burn," the older brother said, sliding the bolt back on the gate. The brothers were close enough that Artem cut straight to the point. "I was at a buddy's birthday yesterday. He invited some guys from the factory district. We had some drinks, got to talking. They started bragging about their turf, how the factory's the toughest part of town and outsiders should stay out. I go and shoot my mouth off that we've got a spot scarier than anything on their turf. One thing led to another. Long story short, I bet them 30,000 I'd take them on a tour of the Candle." "Are you out of your mind?" "Artem, we agreed. No telling anybody." Alex stared. "Sorry, man. I was buzzed and I blabbed." "What's the noise no fight yet?" Semyonich joked as he walked up with the boiling kettle. "It's fine," Artem muttered through a stone face while pouring in the water. "Semyonich, keep an eye on the Sherpa, will you? I'll step aside with Artem for a minute." "No problem. Hand me the skimmer." They moved behind the trailer, and the older brother resumed the lecture. "You know how this can end. Every time you drink, you get heroic. I'm not letting you in there." "Alex, then I'm out 30,000. I ought to smack you for that loose tongue. I'll never do it again, cross my heart." "How many of them?" 3. Plus me. Here's the deal. Bring them around 9 tonight. I'll try to talk them out of it peacefully. And if that doesn't work, then I'll turn on the elevator. And listen, I'm not going with you. Once was enough for me." "Sure, Alex, I can handle it." Around 9 p.m., a taxi rolled up to the site. 4 guys stepped out into the summer night. Artem, a small backpack hanging off his shoulder, didn't knock. He called his brother. A minute later, the guard opened the gate and waved the group into the lot, lit by a couple of floodlights. "Evening, boys," Alexander said, shaking hands. "Keep it quiet so you don't wake Semyonich. He nodded off by the TV in the trailer, and he doesn't need to know you're here." After the greetings, Artem's big brother led them into the Candle's lobby. The building was dark. Only the floodlights outside seeped in through the windows, flooding the brand-new foyer in a faint, eerie half-light. That was exactly what Alexander wanted. He figured in that mood it might be easier to talk the guys out of a dangerous dive into another reality. "Whoa, no one's even breathed in here yet," said a stocky, curly-haired kid from the factory district, eyeing the interior. "What do you think, Switch? Maybe rent a place here?" His skinny friend snickered. Val Konopik, a minor celebrity in the factory, had a thing for switchblades, hence the nickname Switch. I heard this place was supposed to be offices, Switch said, chewing a matchstick. Owner vanished right when it got interesting. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about, Alex cut in. The Candle's owner, better known around town as Lenny Hitch, was stuck in the 90s mentally. Someone told him about a powerful shaman. Supposedly, if the guy with the drum performed a ritual here for profit, the cash would just pour in. Lenny Hitch also had a weird obsession with the number 21, so on the 21st floor, he reserved an apartment for himself and gave it the number 21. He dragged that Indian up there and left for errands. It was around 7 in the evening. A couple hours later, Lenny came back. Learned the shaman hadn't come down yet, so he took the elevator up to get him. No one ever saw either of them again. No need to say the cops found nothing. But that's only half the story. Everything I've told so far is common knowledge. What happened next, almost nobody knows. A week after Lenny and the shaman disappeared, a crew of 5 Tajik finishers showed up and asked to go to 21 to grab their tools. I knew those guys, and I knew they'd left a kit in room 21. I turned on the elevator. Up they went. It was 9 p.m. Only one came down, and not until 3 weeks later. Name's Sharip, the youngest. He walked out during my shift, hair completely white, mind gone. Kept repeating one sentence in broken Russian, "Don't swear, don't look in mirrors." They took him to the psych ward, got nothing out of him. No one ever saw the others again. The half-light of a brand-new empty building did its work. The stairs fading into darkness made you picture 21 floors of black emptiness, and Alex's story clearly got to the guys. "So you and Artem went up there too?" Switch asked, squinting at Alex. "Yeah, we thought about it for a long time. When we added everything up, a picture formed," the guard said, scratching his head. "The shaman was probably the real deal. Looks like while he was dealing with something, Lenny walked in and, as usual, cursed. That's when it went wrong. The ritual must have absolutely forbidden witnesses, especially foul language. Remember what Sharip said? Don't swear. Don't look in mirrors." Anyway, one day after all that, me and Artem got hit by some bad decision juice and decided to test our theory. We rode up to the top, stepped into room 21, and at 21 minutes past 9, we swore. Alex fixed the boys with a long stare. "And?" the skinny one. Eddie finally blurted. "They're all there," Alex whispered. "The shaman, Lenny, the Tajiks. It took me and Artem a week to get out. The Candle has a kind of horrible phantom copy, and room 21 is the entrance. Everyone who vanished is wandering that phantom candle now, and the exit is closed to them. And I strongly recommend you do not meet them," Alexander finished in dead silence. Another pause fell. The boys were clearly torn. "Look, how about we cancel the bet and everyone keeps their money?" Alex tried. "No dice," rasped Eddie, nicknamed Kashe. "We made the bet in front of witnesses. The guys back home won't get it." "Alex, we've heard plenty of urban legends, but we're talking 30,000, said red-haired Stan. "So here's the plan. Artem and I leave you 30,000 each, then we go up to room 21, blanketed in profanity, come back down, and collect our winnings." "One condition," Alex said, narrowing his eyes. "If you don't come for the cash by 6 o'clock sharp in the morning, Artem keeps the pot." "Deal," Stan said, handing over the money. Alex shoved the stack of cash into his inner pocket. "The building's completely de-energized. The breakers are sealed, but I can power the elevator. They left that option for emergencies," he said, checking the time. "I'm heading to the basement to turn it on. You've got 10 minutes to reach room 21. When the button lights up, press it and go." Artem nodded. His brother vanished into the dark corridor. A couple of minutes later, the button glowed a red dot, and the 4 guys stepped into the elevator car. The 21st floor greeted them with darkness and tomb quiet. The factory boys didn't really believe Alex's story, but each of them felt a tension coiling inside. Artem was wound the tightest. He'd been here before and had zero desire to repeat the tour. But he had to return the 30,000 he'd borrowed for a few days from Uncle Vlad. They walked to room 21 in silence. The only sound was their footsteps echoing down a long, dark corridor lined with endless doors on both sides. At the door, Artem stopped, glanced up and down the hall for no reason, then carefully opened it. All four stepped into a spacious office. The door stayed open. The big room was empty, tile floor, wallpaper ready to paint. The wall opposite the entrance was a floor-to-ceiling panoramic window looking out over a fantastic nighttime city under an equally fantastic moon. Bathed in moonlight, the top-floor room felt like the bridge of a starship parked on a mysterious planet. The beauty of it landed hard. For a moment, everyone just took in the lacework of nightlights from 21 floors up. "Boys, we've got exactly 1 minute to say the magic words," Artem said, checking his watch. Stan took the next second to voice his awe. His praise included exactly 3 clean words. "This is just..." After that, the rest of his admiration burst out as a fluent, Baroque torrent of profanity so inventive the others had nothing to add. They just nodded in respect. It was more than enough to trigger something. They all felt the building shiver. The door slammed by itself with a thunder crack. Everyone whipped toward the noise, and Switch, startled, delivered a brief, colorful biography of that door. Then he remembered the bet. Fear might cost them the win, so he shut up. "Before we head out, a few more rules besides what Sharif mumbled," Artem said. "Don't go back up, and don't engage with anyone you meet. No contact." "Wasn't planning on it," Koshé smirked. "We're taking the elevator straight to the first floor in our cache. Come with if you want. Then we'll call the boys and hit a bar to celebrate." He opened the door and headed for the elevator. The others followed. Nobody even glanced at the window to see what had changed behind the glass when a faint ripple washed across it. At the end of the corridor, Koshé stopped dead and stared at the wall like a bull seeing a brand new gate. "What the hell? Where's the elevator?" he barked, running his hands over the spot where the door had been. Artem, last in line, got a good look at the other's bafflement. "Welp, someone stole the elevator," Stan said. "What kind of trick is this, Artem?" Koshé demanded. "I told you we're not in the candle we entered. This is another reality. Things don't line up here." "Yeah, right. You're not scaring us. Stairs work fine." Koshé snorted, turned onto the stairwell, and pounded down. Stan and Switch followed. Artem knew there was no point rushing. He started down the landings at a steady pace, moonlight slanting through a window at the end of each corridor onto the stairs. It felt like the endless switchback led down into hell itself. For a while, Artem heard the others' footsteps. Then even that died. In the absolute hush and half-light, he didn't want to make noise either. Old instincts kicked in. Go slow, listen hard. He pulled out his phone, no bars, as expected, put it back, and kept descending. Eventually, he caught voices, agitated, and a stink in the air. A few turns later, he saw the guys. Koshé sat on a step. Stan and Switch stood on the landing, rattled. "Hey, Artem, how is this even possible?" Stan jabbed a finger downward. Artem stepped up and saw. The stairs sank into foul, rotting water. The way down was cut off. "And that's with no city outside the window," Stan went on. "It's just the moon, and below us clouds, to the horizon. No ground at all. The candle didn't suddenly grow up into the stratosphere." "I tried to explain," Artem said, hands spread. "We're in a phantom copy of the candle. It doesn't match our world." "So how do we go down?" "No elevator. Stairs drowned in a stinking swamp," Koshé snapped, revving up. "We don't," Artem said. "This is a stop, boys. The candle wants us to hang out on this floor a bit." "Wants?" Koshé stared. "I don't know who or what wants it, but we're not getting through until we see what we're meant to see." "What a load, Artem," Koshé growled. Artem stepped into the corridor, ran a hand along the rows of doors, and said, "Now there's a room 21 on every floor. Every so often, something will force us to stop. When we can move again, it decides." For clarity, me and my brother figured the candle itself sets the rules. Right now, we have to... Damn, he was visibly nervous. "We need to walk past that open door and get to room 21, he said, forcing the words out. The tension spread to everyone. "What's in the open door?" Switch asked, side-eyeing Artem. "No idea, But do not go in. Just keep walking. No contact. With who? Switch rasped. I don't know. Come on. We can't stand here breathing this stink forever. He started down the dim corridor. The others, trading looks, followed. The closer they came, the clearer the sounds, muttering, or maybe a low throat song. Not one voice, several. Artem reached the doorway first. What he saw made his skin crawl. In the twilight of the room, a big wooden idol jutted straight up from the floor. A bowl smoked in front of it. Beside the idol, a shaman bristling with feathers hovered lotus-style about 3 feet off the ground in a coil of smoke. The worst part was his face. He didn't have one mouth. He had 3. 1 where a mouth should be, and 2 where his eyes should be. All 3 mouthed a droning chant in different voices. The sound was so wrong it crawled over their skin. When the others reached the door, a collective stupor fell over them. The 4 guys stood in the corridor like they were hypnotized, staring at the floating shaman. The trio of otherworldly voices lulled them toward a trance. Suddenly, the 2 upper mouths yawned wide, and from behind the rotten teeth, a pair of white eyeballs with black pupils rolled forward and stared straight at them. All 4 of them jumped. The shock snapped the trance, and they kept moving. When Artem spotted the door marked 21, a whisper spread through the corridor. It was very soft and went straight to the brain. They all heard it perfectly. Koshe, want to know who Margot's cheating on you with? Koshe, walking last, froze. The others turned and saw a storm of emotions flicker across his face. Surprise, fear, curiosity. He turned and started toward the shaman. Artem moved fast. He lunged, grabbed Koshe by the jacket as he zombie-stepped toward the open door, and dragged him bodily into room 21. When all 4 were inside, Artem slammed the door. He turned to them and said quietly, very serious, I told you no contact. Switch's temper snapped. He grabbed Artem by the front of his hoodie and screamed, Screw you, idiot! Where'd you drag us? How do we get out? Stan, realizing a fight would finish them, jumped in to break it up. Prizing Switch off was hard. He clamped on like a tick. His eyes burned. He looked ready to tear Artem apart. Knock it off. You signed up for this, Stan said, pinning Switch's arm. You were warned this place is messed up. Switch panted through clenched teeth, trying to wrench free and take a swing, but couldn't. At some point, Artem realized Koshe wasn't in the room. The door was ajar. Koshe's gone. He went to the shaman. We have to get him. Stan and Switch turned toward the door. Artem shoved Switch away and bolted into the corridor. The last thing he saw was the door to the shaman's room slamming shut. The corridor was empty. God damn it, Artem blurted. The other 2 rushed out, breath ragged. For a few seconds, they stared at the door. Maybe we open it? Stan ventured. A non-human scream ripped out of the shaman's room. Swy, I itch! I'm gonna kill you, you bastard! There was so much grief and hate in that voice that Switch didn't think he just bolted for the stairs like he'd been scalded. Move! Artem barked, and he and Stan sprinted after him. Switch remembered the way down was blocked, but knowing how jealous Koshe was, panic made him plan to run up. Artem smelled the mistake, sprinted past him, and on the landing, seeing the path down was clear again, shoved the would-be Casanova and Stan the right way. All 3 thundered downward, taking 5-6 steps at a time, like boulders tumbling down a mountain. After an insane number of floors, they were spent. Artem and Stan collapsed on the concrete landing, sucking air. Switch, the most terrified, made it a couple more flights, then fell too. No footsteps of pursuit, but the fear wouldn't let go. Lungs burned like they'd burst. Nobody could talk. Stan caught his breath first. He crawled to the railing and croaked down the shaft. Switch, was it true? Silence. Switch, you piece of crap. When Koshe kills you, I'll help him. Silence again. By the way, Artem, why were we even running? Koshe's mad at him, not us. That wasn't Koshe anymore. Not entirely. What do you mean? Stan asked. I told you no contact. He's not in control now. His essence changed. He's more demon than the guy you knew, and he'll stay in the candle forever. No way. What do we even tell his parents? You sure we're getting out ourselves? What? Exactly. We're in another dimension. None of this makes sense. Open your eyes, Stan. But you and your brother got out. It took a lot strength, caution, luck, and even then, the candle doesn't play it the same twice. One time it lets you go. Next time, maybe not. So what do? Keep walking down. Follow the rules. Be careful. Then maybe we've got a chance. Fear was plain on Stan's face. He sat and cradled his head. I'm an idiot. I signed up for this nightmare over a lousy 30,000. We didn't believe you. We thought you were hustling us. I didn't believe it myself the first time, Artem groaned, pushing to his feet. We'd better move or Koshi might catch up. Then we're toast. Felt like we ran 200 floors and the stairs still don't end. How? Stan said, following. I don't know. Take it as it is. When do we reach the first floor? When the candle decides to let us, Artem said. They passed Switch sitting on a landing. Stan shot him a look full of contempt. Switch stared at nothing. Up! Let's go! Artem threw over his shoulder, already a few steps below. Switch stood and trailed after them at a distance. The three kept descending the endless concrete spiral. Soon, the silence began to fray with sounds. You couldn't tell where they came from. They seemed to exist on their own. A crow cawed, rusty swings creaked, rain, whispers, like someone was trying to drive the candle's prisoners insane. The place gnawed at their minds. When Stan and Switch caught up to Artem, they froze in disbelief. Artem stood at the edge of a landing where the stairs simply stopped. Gone. A vertical, bottomless shaft dropped away, no hint of further steps. Standing on a platform that seemed to hang over a well, Artem stared down. Stan peered through the railing and saw rows of corridor doors falling away along the far wall of the shaft. Another stop, Artem said, his voice shaking. Room 21 greeted them with a mind-bending view. The moon lit an endless sea of dense clouds, stretching to the horizon in every direction. Looking out the window felt like standing at the edge of the universe. One step, and you could stroll across the cloud plain. Romance wasn't on anyone's mind. They were dead tired and hit the floor. They needed hours. What now? Stan asked. We wait for the way to open, Artem said. Switch lay down by the wall, a little apart from them, and closed his eyes. Artem traded a couple more lines with Stan and drifted into sleep. His dreams were a stew, his brother talking, endless stares, flying shamans, strange noises. Then came tapping soft at first, then harder, like knuckles on glass. Then a voice, no, several nasty voices speaking in unison, first soft and coaxing. Swhy I itch, Switchy, open up. Then louder, still coaxing, open up, Switchy, it's cooled out here. That wasn't a dream anymore. Artem's heart kicked. He opened his eyes. What he saw made his hair stir. Outside, on all fours, Koshi was crawling across the panoramic glass. He moved in jerks, the way a fly moves on a surface. Like a giant insect, Koshi scuttled over the sheer window wall. Through the double glazing, they could hear his many voices clearly. Switch, let me IE in. We're frightened. Open the window, Switch. The hideous chorus worked on Switch like a spell. Eyes shut, he got up and drifted toward the window to do as asked. Artem shot up, lunged, grabbed Switch by the belt a yard from the glass and hauled him back. Switch, sleepwalking, weakly resisted, trying to continue, but it wasn't working. Artem tried to shake him awake. No use. He was under. Holy crap, Stan gasped, rubbing his eyes raw. How did he get out there? Koshi, realizing the window wouldn't open, panicked and started darting faster. His coaxing became a scream that drilled their ears. Open the window, scum! Let me IC in! Let me in! Switch, you bastard! Open oop! Let me in! Artem and Stan stared, stunned. It felt like another second and the glass would explode under that demonic roar. Then, all at once, the thing that had been Koshi dropped away like a stone. Silence. Switch snapped awake, eyes bulging. What the hell? Where am I? They were too stunned to answer. A minute later, loud music drifted up from below. Then voices, laughter. A party? Switch said to Artem. Maybe we should check it out? Artem met his eyes and slowly shook his head. The party ramped up. They stood rooted, staring at the floor. Then came the worst part. They started recognizing the voices. The people partying down there were them. After a while, the shouts turned to ugly an argument, a fight, dull impacts, glass breaking. Then a woman's scream, "Ah, Koshe, you killed him, he's dead," sobbing, footsteps running in heels, a door slamming, and silence. The three of them stood like statues in a strange room above the clouds, straining to listen to that silence. It took over completely. "I think it's time to go," Artem whispered, eyes on the floor. Nobody wanted to move. Cold fear crawled up their spines and locked their legs. "We have to," Artem said, a little steadier, "or we'll never get out." He forced his stiff legs into motion and shuffled into the corridor. Stan and Switch willed their own legs to follow. On the landing, stairs now led down as if they'd always been there. They were getting used to the candle's tricks and, without comment, kept going. The sameness wore you down. 10 steps, turn, 10 steps, turn, repeat. After 100 floors or so, Artem decided they needed a break and some food. The others agreed, and they sat right on the corridor floor where it was brighter. Artem took off his backpack and pulled out a bottle of soda and a couple packs of oatmeal cookies. "Man, you planned ahead," Stan said, swigging soda and munching. "I've got experience. First time all we had was a bag of chips and tap water from the bathrooms." "There's water here?" Stan blinked. "Yeah, weird, I know. No electricity, but water on every floor." "Speaking of the bathroom, I should hit it," Switch muttered, getting up and heading to the door marked M. The cookies took the edge off their hunger, and their mood ticked up a notch. "Stan, who's Margot?" Artem asked while Switch was gone. "Marguerite, Koshe's girl. He worshipped her, crazy jealous. And Switch turned out rotten, and Margot's a flirt, I guess." "Artem, how'd you even learn the rules? No going back, no contact." Artem squinted, hesitated, and said quietly, "You know, it wasn't just me and Alex who ended up here that first time." A crash from the bathroom cut him off. Blows, shattering glass. "Switch!" Artem shouted, jumping up. More thuds, more glass raining down. They rushed the bathroom and flung the door open. Switch lay on the floor with his head a smashed mess. The mirror over the sink was broken. The sink and floor were full of bloody shards. The mirror! He looked in the mirror. "Damn it!" Artem groaned. "Switch, you alive?" Stan asked, nudging his shoulder. Switch's face was pulp, glass jutting from blood. The puddle spreading around his head left little hope. "Artem, I think... he's gone." "Did he do that to himself?" "I don't think so. The second he looked in the mirror, it was like he stopped being himself." "What do? We can't leave him in the bathroom." "Right. We'll carry him to 21. They took him by wrists and ankles and carried him to room 21, laying him on the floor. A red streak led from the bathroom. In the moonlit half-dark, the office with a body in it looked extra sinister, and they hurried out. As they reached the landing, the thing that made their hair lift happened. A woman's scream ripped from the room. "Ah, Koshe, you killed him! You killed him! He's dead!" They froze. "That's Margot," Stan whispered. "Move," Artem said, just as shaken, and strode down the stairs. Stan didn't need convincing. At first the floors flew by, then they slowed to a walk. "Artem, what do you think this place is?" Stan asked. "My brother's religious. When we got out the first time, he brought a book from church. It said every soul rising to heaven passes through ordeal's toll houses." "Tests?" "Yeah, like a multi-level filter. Each level tests a different sin. One's greed, another's drunkenness, another theft, and so on. Where your vice matches the level you stay. Forever. So we're in those ordeals. Looks like the shaman poked a hole between our world and the place souls go after death." "Man, but we're still alive, right?" Stan said, not sounding sure. "That's why we've got a chance to get back. A slim one, but still." "I get now why Koshe went into the shaman's room. He was hooked on horoscopes and fortune-telling," Stan said after a beat. "There you go. In here, your vices spike. Your soul can't resist. Plenty of people can't fight their habits even in our world. Here it's worse. Artem broke off. Another blockage. The way forward was jammed with demolition debris, broken brick, chunks of concrete, rusty rebar filling the stairwell. Stops in the candle were never good news. The boys realized, with a stab of fear, they'd reached another ordeal. One door in the corridor stood open, and soft club music drifted out. Stan got a bad feeling. Maybe we just stay here? I don't want to go in there, he blurted. If we don't look, the path never opens. We've got no other way, Artem said, tense, and they edged down the hall. Inside was a casino. Green felt tables, cards, chips, the works. 4 Tajik men and Lenny Hitch sat at a table. Lenny wore a cherry-red blazer and fistfuls of rings. Seeing them, he stood, beamed, and said, "Hey boys, about time. Come on, sit, let's play." The Tajiks lit up like they were old friends. "Salam, brothers. Come, your seats are free," the eldest said, pointing. That was when the candle cranked their urges to 11. The itch to gamble burst loose, smothering everything else. Their reason fogged, hearts pounded, brains pulsed with one thought: tonight, I win. Palms went damp and their legs carried them to the table by themselves. Back home, Artem and Stan were regulars at underground rooms and private dens. They crossed paths a lot. Both were gamblers, and now the habit they'd never fought grabbed the reins. Stan slid into a chair and picked up his cards. "We're finished," a tiny voice in the back of Artem's head said. Last time he only got past this level because his brother literally dragged him away by the scruff. This time, Alex wasn't there. "Where are you, Alex?" Artem thought, a pain slicing through him as he stepped closer. The table buzzed, smoke curled from a hookah, a bottle of cognac glowed. Artem stopped dead, not on his own. Something stopped him. An unseen iron hand wrapped him and held him back. He heard a faint, distant voice, familiar to the bone. His brother's voice, praying for him. The words flowed behind him in a half-whisper. The more Alex prayed, the further that invisible hand tugged Artem from the table. The players didn't like that. Threats fluttered in the air, no more smiles. Only Stan sat with his back to Artem, unnaturally still. Artem heard Alex's prayer more clearly, a lasso tugging him toward the landing. His body resisted, drunk on the rush, straining to go back. The last thing he saw in the room was the way the players' faces started to change, their features warping into something monstrous. Then, the prayer wrenched him into the hall, and he didn't see the rest. The demons, losing their prey, howled curses so loud his ears rang. If they could have, they'd have shredded him in a second. But something stopped them. Rules, maybe. The prayer dragged Artem onto the landing. The path was open again. The fever broke. He didn't think he ran, full tilt. Fear cracked like a whip at his back. 10 floors flashed by, and he burst out straight into his brother's arms. Tears jumped from his eyes. Artem hugged Alex and couldn't speak. "You were gone 3 days," Alexander murmured. "Tonight's my shift again. I dozed off after dark and dreamed you were in trouble. Woke up, ran to the lobby, started praying for you. You alone?" Artem nodded. "Got it." That night, Artem stayed in Alex's trailer. The next day, he paid Uncle Vlad back. As for the money they'd won on that damned bet, Alex suggested they donate it to the church he went to and ask for prayers for the boys who were still trapped in the candle. It was all they could do.